Hello everyone, Andy here with eTrailer.com, and today we're going to take a look at the Redarc Tow Pro Elite brake controller on our 2018 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 3500. So with our brake controller, whenever we are towing anything behind our vehicle, it is proportionally going to distribute that braking pressure from our vehicle to our trailer. The benefits of choosing this brake controller are going to be, it is going to provide a nice, smoother driving experience, and it also is going to be a lot safer and stress-free on your vehicle as well whenever you're towing that extra weight behind it. So with the Redarc Tow Pro Elite, it is a very compact, small package. It allows us to put our wiring and the main unit underneath the dash, and that way we aren't hitting our knees or accidentally adjusting or possibly damaging our controls here, as you can see. It does make it nice and easy because you can access it here close to your steering wheel, and that's going to help if you happen to need to use the manual override. So with the various settings here, you can apply the proper braking pressure to your trailer or whatever you're towing. As far as the installation, it is a pretty straightforward process since we are using kind of a plug-and-play method with the OEM wiring harness, the pigtail, and our Redarc system. Now, we did have to use a couple different wires that were provided by the RV manufacturer, but overall it was pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at that now. So for the installation, you first want to go ahead and remove your driver's side seat and your foam paneling just that covers the fuse box and accessories underneath the seat. And we did locate where our brake control wire that is wired from the factory is located right here. And what we're going to do next is remove our paneling in order for us to have ground and power to our brake controller. So with our panel here removed, we're going to go ahead and also remove the floor panel here and set that to the side so we can access our plate here. And with our T30 Torx bits just lightly removed, you don't have to release them all the way. You can go ahead and slide your panel out, and now we have access to our battery. So now that we have our panel removed, we can remove our ground wire and then our power. And what I'm doing is I'm going to use the foam panel that was underneath our seat just to kind of leave these wires sitting up. That way they don't fall back on our terminals. So removing our T20 Torx bit screws from the bottom of our plastic panel, this is just going to give us an idea on where we want to mount our brake controller. There are two under the main panel here, but this one on the side seems like we need to remove it as well. So removing this third bolt over here allowed a little bit of freedom to move the panel down and then out, and we're just going to go ahead and leave this panel here on the side. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we've looked at some other options for mounting. We do have these accessory buttons that we can remove and maybe put something there, but we found that you might have to do a little filing or shaving to get the actual button itself to fit accordingly. It's a pretty tight fit and there's not much room to get back behind there in order to run your wires or even just to get your hands to get everything set in place. So this accessory port right here, we're just going to go ahead and from underneath just pop it out lightly. And this is going to be a great option and a great fit to mount our button. You can see that from this way most of the button is going to fit through, and we can access easily getting our wires and everything in place, and that's going to be a great fit and great location to access that. So when mounting our main unit, what we're going to do is go from the backside underneath this section here. It has the most surface area from this backside in order to get everything mounted. Also, there's a lot of rooms for our wires to kind of be tangle free and get those adjusted accordingly as well. So now that we have our seat removed and our floor is exposed, there is a matching green color plug that is going to fit perfectly with our 4-point here, and we're just going to go ahead and reach down and connect these two, and then we will feed our wiring accordingly. So now here is our matching green plug, and we're going to connect the factory wiring harness to our wiring harness here, and I'm just going to go ahead and start feeding the wires underneath in order to get through our access hole on the side of the vehicle. So taking the end of the plug here, we're just going to feed it through this opening where the seat base is. And what I'm planning on doing is running some wire loom just to protect this as well, but I will run this down the side and feed it underneath to where our battery access port is as well. With our OEM harness, we had to use the red wire and splice off to the provided brake controller wire that the manufacturer for the RV provided us with this harness here. So same thing with our red wire to our brake controller for power. We weren't getting a strong enough signal to our brakes, sending it to the back of the vehicle. So we used the provided blue wire that the RV manufacturer set up with our blue wire from our wiring harness. So in order for me to go ahead and get my box situated before I mount it, that way I have the right length and I can get everything secured in place properly, I'm just going to go ahead and attach our pigtail adapter here. And then I'm going to kind of situate where I want the box to be mounted at. So with our main unit, we are going to be mounting it on the back side of this panel here. And just as a note, it doesn't matter the orientation that you put it in. You just want to make sure that it's not connecting or touching any other wires that's going to be behind the panel. So I'm just going to make 2 marks on each, the top and the bottom. That way I know where I want to drill my holes and where I want this to be secured and mounted. Just like so. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is attach our pigtail and the wire that is going to feed to our button, and this way I can kind of get my wires in place, and also I don't have to worry about trying to make those connections whenever our main unit is mounted. So from here I'm just going to reach. Okay, so I am going to remove the OEM wiring harness here. I did find a part where I can kind of feed this pigtail a little bit further behind to kind of make everything nice and streamlined in there. That way there's nothing really hanging down. And I did just put in 1 piece of hardware, that way I can get the mounting point just to sit before I really get everything situated. So with the extra length in our pigtail on this plastic bottom portion here of the main unit, we did find there was a little obstruction with a crossmember bar behind our panels here, so we went ahead and moved it to the outside. As you can see, that our wire up to our button here feeds perfectly and our pigtail isn't obstructed, and we also test fitted to make sure our trim piece here wasn't going to be bound or be protruding in any way whenever we completed this. And with our unit in place, we can go ahead and secure the rest of our hardware. Now this hardware is not provided, so you can use any type of hardware that you pick up at a local hardware store of your liking. So we went ahead and kind of zip tied and cleaned up our wiring harness to our main unit, and I went ahead and took our wire that is going to be to our button, and I've just put it through the port here. Now I have not secured this down anyway, I just have it loose. That way once I get our holes drilled and our button mounted to this plug, then we can go ahead and secure our wire down. So I have our gray spacer here. Now you want to make sure that you do not score this in any way, keep it in its same orientation, but I do have it marked here and taped. That way it's placed in the spot that I want to mount our button to where our accessory hole was. And I'm just going to go ahead and lightly drill this top hole, and then I will work on the bottom one. And now I'm just going to go ahead and score a middle hole here, that way I know it's centered, and then we can go further from there. So I'm just going to use a little bit larger bit, and then I will use a step bit in order to get the right circumference for this hole for our button. So the housing of our button, we needed to kind of shave down in order to fit into this portion of the dash that we're using to mount the button. Now I went ahead and turned this counterclockwise all the way, and we will go ahead and install the button with the 0 facing upward. And when it's installed, you want to make sure that you hear and feel the click, and that's when you know you're ready to go ahead and mount this. So I went ahead and took our cable out of here, and I am going to go ahead and connect it here and move it forward into position. Now we can go ahead and put our cap that we are using in place. And then we can use our provided nut in order to get everything secured. Now using a 12mm, lightly tighten this down until you feel like it's secure and it's not going to go anywhere. From here we can go ahead and put our button into place, and we can rotate the knob counterclockwise all the way to the furthest position, and then with the light and point there, that is where we will put the 0, and from there you can feel and hear the audible click of our knob. So from here, since we have our button attached, we do have some excess wire that is hanging down. We're just going to go ahead and climb underneath there and zip tie and attach anything. That way it's not interfering with our feet or our pedals at all, and that way it just gives it a nice clean look. And then from there, we'll go ahead and put our dash pieces back on and get this thing put back together. So when you get done with the installation process, you can take it out and you want to calibrate the system. Now it'll flash between a green and blue LED. Once you get it calibrated, that LED will turn to a solid blue. Now when it is in the 0 numbered position, it will not be applying any pressure or sending any signals. So if you were to change it to just any number, let's say we're going to go to number 10, and I apply the brakes, it will turn red. With everything calibrated, we are ready to hit the road now, and that is going to do it for a look at the Redarc Tow Pro Elite Brake Controller on our 2018 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 3500.